Russia's first moon mission in nearly half a century has ended in disaster. The Luna-25 probe span out of control and crashed into the moon. Russia was racing to land on the lunar South Pole before a rival Indian mission expected to arrive next week.
The far side of the moon seen from a Russian spacecraft. The Luna-25 entered orbit last Thursday, where it had been searching for the ideal landing site near the South Pole. The launch earlier this month from Russia's Far East Cosmodrome marked a new beginning for Moscow's moon program. It's been nearly 50 years since the last Luna probe, number 24, travelled to the moon and back to what was then the Soviet Union, carrying lunar soil samples to the launch pad this time took longer than expected. Liftoff was delayed by nearly 2 years. One major reason was the war in Ukraine. Before the invasion, the European Space Agency was set to supply the spacecraft navigation camera. But the war put a stop to the partnership. As a result, Russia said it would not share any of its scientific findings with its former international partners. Russia is not the only player in what's fast becoming a 21st century space race. NASA is planning to bring humans back to Earth's closest neighbour within a few years and build a base there for its future exploration of the cosmos. Russia, China, Japan and India have similar plans for lunar outposts. But to achieve them, they all need water, which can be turned into breathable oxygen among many other uses. And that's why they're all heading for the moon's South Pole. In this yet unexplored region, the sun sits low on the horizon. The craters can be many kilometres deep, with high peaks keeping sunlight out, leaving the depth in perpetual darkness, with temperatures dropping to minus 200 degrees Celsius. Perfect conditions for ice. And this month, the race to the moon is coming down to the wire. India's lunar craft is just days away from its attempt at a soft landing on the South Pole. It was launched 4 weeks before Russia's unmanned space mission, but took a longer route. It was a redo of India's first attempt to reach the moon, which ended in a crash 4 years ago. And now it's Russia who has crashed out, narrowing the competition for the remaining contenders.
I'd like to now welcome Keith Cowing, a former NASA employee and now editor of SpaceRef.com. He joins us from outside Washington, D.C. Keith, to the best you can determine, what went wrong for the Russian spacecraft?
Well, this is rocket science, as I put my hand on my chin, and so it's very difficult. I mean, we've gone to the moon many times, but it is still very difficult to do, and Russia has not gone there for nearly half a century. And so put that all together, and when the message came by yesterday that via automatic translation that the spacecraft had tried to do something and it didn't do it, most of us in the community said, well, something happened with the propulsion system. And indeed, that apparently is what happened. It says, if you look at the Telegram posting, which translates by Google into English, it says that the spacecraft was tumbling and spinning out of control, and then it crashed into the lunar surface. So I'll just guess that they tried to fire it, and the engine either didn't shut off or it fired in the wrong way. And then that was it. Because the spacecraft was wobbling, if you can let this be a spacecraft, it wasn't pointing at Earth, or something was damaged, and all the bad things happened all at once. So sorry to see this. Let's try again, Russia.
And just to be clear, so viewers understand, and I think they do, you're not leading any investigation on this. We're simply relying on your expertise. I think it's safe to say the whole endeavor didn't exactly get off to an auspicious start. But how surprising was a crash?
It was a little surprising, but not too. The thing with Luna-25 is that it was the next numerical designation for a spacecraft, but Russia had tried to launch this mission multiple times over the past 20 or 30 years, and some of the hardware is very old, some of it is new, and then, of Of course, as you mentioned in your setup piece, they decided to attack Ukraine, and now nobody wants to work with Russia. So you put all that together and you send your spacecraft to the moon, and they've done it before, so they had every expectation that it would work, and it did not. So I don't think anybody's really surprised because they've had quality control issues of late in the Russian space program. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the official statements are. I hope they try again because everybody should go to the moon.
We understand India's lunar craft is expected to land in the coming days. In the literally half minute we have left, give us some perspective here. Where does this leave all the competitors in the space race?
Well, being a competitor means that you feel that you're in a competition. I don't think the Indians necessarily do. Their spacecraft landing is much more sophisticated than Russia's. It has many more instruments. It has a little rover. And India has quite a good recent track record other than one crash. So I suspect that you're going to see a lot of excellent science coming out of this. Japan's going to hopefully land something in a couple of months, and then the Americans are going back. So again, everybody should go to the moon, and they are.
Keith Cowing, I could spend a lifetime chatting with you, but we will end it there. Many thanks for your time and especially your perspective. Keith Cowing, former NASA employee and editor of SpaceRef.com, many thanks.
My pleasure.